this is Everett. I'm going to do another painting today, and today is going to be painting clouds. So clouds are another favorite subject, and but you have to practice them because it's a little bit technical as far as painting clouds are concerned. You can make them real simple, but today I'm going to do a little more complex cloud, and to give you the feeling of how you build that. It's going to be a cumulus cloud where you build a little depth to it and give a little variety of color and a little shading and so forth. So that's the subject today. Let me go to my painting table and let me get started. So these are the clouds I'm going to pick here to choose. I'll use this as a sample here of the type of clouds. And I'm going to show you how I get started on this and then also with paint. Now you'll notice that there's a large cloud here in the foreground. As you go back further in the landscape here, you can see the clouds get smaller and they get closer to the ground because they're further back. They get smaller. You can still see the dark shadows underneath and so forth. And the configuration is very little foreground, just the land, but there'll be a lot of sky space. Okay, so I'll be painting around the clouds. This is the technique I'm going to use today, and so let me get started. I'm going to use the well. First of all, before I do that, I'm going to sketch in. Check the focus. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take that shape of the cloud. I'm going to sketch. Now here's the horizon line's way down here at the bottom. So only about a fourth of the page is going to be landscape here. The rest is all going to be sky from here on up here. And I'm using Gemini watercolor paper. This is a quarter sheet, which measures 15 inches long and 12 inches wide. And that's my watercolor paper, 140-pound Gemini archival watercolor paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch. I'm going to use the like I said, I've showed you the photograph here. I'm going to sketch very lightly. You don't want too much marks in the sky. I'm going to sketch very lightly the shapes that I'm going to put in here. So I'm going to follow the outline here of this large cloud in the foreground. I'm just going to get the extra shaping here that I'm going to use for my design. I'm going to use basically the shape that's here on the photograph. So I start out with the outline, and I want to get this side of the shape over here and get the nice size. So you start with an outline, just a general outline. And then I'm going to come underneath here with the bottom of the cloud and go along the base here. It's at the bottom of all these clouds, mostly cumulus clouds, they're flat on the bottom, and all the moisture and so forth is collected in the top. And then so cumulus clouds are beautiful. I love to see them in the summertime when we want to have lots of water from raining, for the gardens and so forth, for vegetables. Now I'm putting a few lines down here to remind me where I'm going to put these smaller clouds. We're way in the background. And there's a kind of a larger cloud here in the middle. I'm going to scope that in. So I'm just preparing myself just to give me a little direction here and where I'm going to head. So this sketching just gets a general sketch, very light. Don't use a lot of pencil marks on the paper, but just want to get some reference points here so I can get in the proper shapes and so forth. So I'm following the main shapes here that I see that I like. I'm not going to paint everything on the photograph, but I'm going to get at least a representative of the shapes that I see. And start from there. And then there's a light cloud here on the right, which has a smaller cloud here on the right side, and it has a little darker than the rest. But it's again a very important part of the composition. And we'll try to get the clouds into the sky. Basically, what I see. So if I was doing a landscape on plein air, I'd be doing the same thing. I'd do a light sketch of what I want to see. Okay, so you can't see it very well on the camera, but there's just a light sketch. Just barely see it, but it'll give me enough guidelines here in which to start painting. Okay, So that's the first step you want to do, is get in some general shapes that we're going to do, but don't make it too dark. Okay, now the first thing I'll do is wet the sky. Now I'm going to wet the area. I'm going to start with the blue sky here, and just go around the edges here a little bit of the white cloud. But get a little bit of water, get a little bit of what, dampen the paper, a little bit of water on the paper to get started. Not too much, just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to use this is a mop brush, which I'm going to use here. I'm going to start out with a darker blue. It'll be at the top of top of the sky. It's going to have ultramarine blue. So I'll start with a darker blue here, dark blue. And as I gradually come down, I'm going to use cobalt blue and then cerulean blue when I get down to the bottom. So that's going to start out with this on the sky. And I'm going to go ahead and get the blue in. And I haven't taped the paper down. Just going ahead and let it dry, do its thing. Get that first stroke across there. Okay, now I'm going to pick up, rinse out the brush, and I'm going to change colors. I'm going to go into cobalt blue now. That's my medium blue, cobalt blue, beautiful color. And then come down here behind the cloud. Now I'm going to start forming the edges now. So I'm going to go around and make sure I have an irregular edge. And I don't want anything symmetrical. I want to have different sizes and shapes on both sides of the cloud here. So it'll be an asymmetrical shape that I'm trying to capture here. And make sure I've got a nice, interesting outline here on the shapes. My little preliminary sketch here has helped me guide myself around the area here. Pick up a little more blue. Now I'm coming over to this side over here with cerulean blue. And I'm going to have a little bit of edge up here. So this is just getting in the shapes of the cloud. That's the most important, is get the outline that you want to use. Get the structure. Come down here a little bit, break this up just slightly. And now I'm going to now I'm going to use the lighter blue. I'm going to get into cerulean blue. Come in a little closer down to the clouds. And a little bit further back in the background. So now I'm into cerulean blue, and I'm going to put a little bit of blue here underneath this cloud here, showing through. That's the sky behind, and as I come over, I'm going to come over here with just a little bit of blue under this cloud here. And that's about all the blue I'm going to put in there. That's just the blue sky. The rest is all going to be a gray mixture and so forth. So let me make sure I got my sky. I'm happy with my sky. I might go back in now, put another layer of color up here, just to have myself a nice smooth transition. Pick up more of that cobalt blue, and go back in here and I'm really eliminating any white spots I see in the paper. Make it a nice smooth transition here from dark to light on the blue. down to that beautiful cerulean. So, okay. This is sometimes tricky going back into a damp area because you might wind up with a little bit of back runs and so forth. To be careful of that. They do, sometimes it makes some irregularities in the sky. There, now there's the sky. There's the blue sky area that I've painted in, okay? And the rest is all going to be clouds with grays and so forth. So let me dry this section here. So the first part here was to get the sky blue. Might go back, review again. The first step I did was I drew in a really light sketch of the cloud outlines. Get the outline shapes of the clouds. And you can see here I got the large cloud here in the foreground and the smaller cloud over here. Then the small clouds below will be defined later on as I get down into the landscape. But now I need to dry this before I get into the next section. So using this with the Ranger dryer that I have, which is nice and quiet. I can talk over it so you can hear what I'm saying. I'm drying out the sky with the hair dryer. Well, no, this is not a hair dryer. This is a craft. This is designed for a craft dryer, and it's very nice. It's nice and warm. Okay, I can see the shine going away, so we're getting pretty close to drying everything out. But I'll make sure it's perfectly dry. You don't want to get anything into the sky at this point. I'll check with the back of my hand. If it feels warm, then I know it's dry. Okay. All right. Okay, that's step one. Is get the sky in. All right, and then make sure I'm gonna make sure my painting board here is dry. I don't want to get back into that edge. Okay. All right. Now what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna usually change brushes now. I'm gonna use a different brush into the clouds. I'm going to use two brushes. I'm going to use my round brush. This is a synthetic brush by Holbein. It's a number 16 round. As it comes to a nice point, but it gives me a nice big belly for putting in the cloud shapes. And then I've got a 1/2 inch Holbein flat. And I'm going to use this. Now this is going to be very important because I'm going to use this to feather or blend the colors I put on. So I'll put the colors down with the round, and then I'm going to feather it with clean water in the flat brush. I'm going to put the paint in the round brush to paint the shadow, and then I'm going to use this to do the shading, the gradation I want to see. All right, now the colors I'm going to use now. I'm going to go back to my ultramarine blue, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of alizarin crimson, just a little bit. A little bit of alizarin crimson will turn it into a grayish, purplish. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of burnt sienna, to grade that down. Okay, that's going to be my sky color. And maybe a little bit of a touch of Payne's gray, again, just to dull it down. So I'm going to have like a medium, it's like a very light medium gray. I don't want it too dark. It's it's a light mixture. It's not a very dark mixture. Because I can always layer again to make it darker. You start out with a light layer first, then you can darken it as you go. Okay, so I'm going to start down here with this large cloud. I'm going to put in the lower area. So the bottom of the clouds where the water is, the moisture, the main moisture is going to be really dark, the shadow at the bottom of the cloud. And that's always characteristic of a cumulus cloud. It's going to have a dark shadow along the bottom. It's going to be fair, always, usually at the bottom of the clouds, always very flat. Okay, All right, now I do this in layers. What I'm going to do now is take the flat brush with just water in it, and I hit it on a sponge. Now I'm going to blend the edges a little bit to get a nice gradation. I don't want any hard edges up here inside the cloud. The soft edges, the only hard edges are going to be a little bit along the bottom, but up here in the middle of the cloud, it's going to be soft edges. And I'm going to start with this nice soft texture. So we'll start here with this first base coat here. So already we're getting a little bit of dimension in the cloud already. We'll see the base of the cloud is in, and then we got this nice soft coloring there on the top. And okay, so I'm going to let that one go. I got some more work to do on that, but I want to get some of these other clouds started. So I'm going to go back here and load the brush up again. And so this is using the round brush. Now over here to the side I got a darker cloud here. So I'm going to put that in underneath this large cloud. There's a darker cloud here, so I'll put that in. I'm going to give it a little rounded shape, but it kind of runs off to the side of the edge of the paper here. Okay, now, I'm not going to do anything with the edges of this, just going to leave that alone, just the way it is. Okay, I'll pick up some more. Now I've got this this cloud here is right underneath, so this is going to start with the bottom again. So I start with a light mixture, and I'm going to go ahead and define the bottom of the cloud, which is going to be a flat surface, and put a little bit of color up there in the side. Then I'm going to take the flat brush just with water in. It's dry. It's a dry flat. I mean, it's what I do is I put it's water. It's a wet brush, damp brush, with very little water in it, because I hit the sponge. And what that does, it gives me a nice blending tool to blend out this cloud shape that I'm painting here. Okay, so I got that one started. There's a little cloud here, and I'm going to build more on that as I get started. Let's go ahead and build some more clouds. So I'm going to pick up another one of these. This cloud here has got a base on it. This is a little bit longer but smaller. We're going further back into the landscape, so they're going to get smaller. They still have the same characteristics. They have a flat bottom, and they have a little bit of shading up inside. So I'm feathering that edge and moving the brush stroke up inside to give it a little dimension. We're just getting a base coat in. Now I can go ahead. I got a couple more little ones. I'm going to put another one down here. It's a little bit smaller. Same technique. Just get the base started, and then gradually build up the shape of a cloud with a blender brush. So this is really I'm using a flat brush here as a blender brush, just blending the shapes. And I got one more little one that I want to put down here. So you can see these layers, they go further and further back. As it gets smaller and smaller, but these layers of clouds, and this shows a distancing. It shows a little bit of aerial perspective here of these clouds, that they get smaller, further back. And I'm going to put one more over here. I've got another cloud here. So let me start on the right side over here. Start with a base. I always start with a base. That's the darkest part. And I'm going to put a little bit little bit of paint up here on the side. Then I take the blender brush, just with a little bit of water, very light water, and I'm going to blend out that shape. Give me a little more dimension here of this cloud. Build this one up. Okay, and I got one more. I'm going to put one. I got quite a few clouds going here, but the rest are going to be really not well defined. But here we're going to put in another cloud down here, another smaller cloud. So going further back into the horizon, back into the landscape. They're going to get smaller, perspective-wise. They'll get smaller. And they still have the same characteristic. They have a flat bottom to them and a gradual building up of color, shading. Okay. Now this one over here is kind of interesting. I'll look at the photograph here. Now, this one here is just it's all gray. So again, it gives me this is the main area over here, but this is going to be a little side issue over here with a little bit of gray. So I'm going to put those in. Again, I just need light color. And now I'm going to go in, I'm going to put in some marks. Not necessarily flat marks. These are going to be kind of like puffy, irregular shapes. Just to give me something to build on. And then I'll take my blender brush now, and I'll go in and I'll feather out the edges of this, because I don't want hard edges. I want all soft edges. This will break these shapes up into lights and darks. I'm blending out those marks, those brush marks I made. Give me an irregular pattern over here. Again, this is what I'm putting the first layer down. I'm going to go back in and put some more. I'll put another layer on top of this one just before I finish this. Okay. All right. Now down here at the bottom here, I'm going to have all I'm going to do is I'll take a very light colors. Now we're going further back into the areas. I'm just going to make some marks across here. These are clouds way off in the background, way off. So they'll show up as just gray areas. You don't see the sky back here because the sky is all full of clouds. So those clouds are way back in the background. But these are all little floaters back here. I might put another, just for composition wise, I might put another darker cloud over here also, just a darker cloud. Now, composition wise, I got to balance this off. I got dark here and dark over here just to balance that off a little bit. And it's also the photograph has a dark cloud here, so I'm using the photograph to help me with my design. I chose a photograph to give me the shapes I wanted, and now I'm going to run these shapes now and irregular patterns. These are stacked way back in the background. They're very irregular. There's just a pattern of clouds back here, lights and darks. As we go back, I'll put some more darker marks in here. Okay. All right, now, what I'm going to do now, now this isn't dry now, it's just, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and put in another layer now. And I'm going to start with a much lighter mix. And I'm just going to put in some strokes up here. And I'm going to build a little design here with this blender brush. And you will find that these layers of different shapes now build the shapes of the cloud. So put a little paint down there, and I'm using my blender brush, and I'm going to blend the shapes out to give me a nice little puffy sections. And even down here where I went, just I'm going to go back in and put a little more color on top of what I did here, and it'll give me another layer, a little bit darker. So now I'm building dimension now. I'm building shapes and so forth inside the cloud to show the layers. There's layers and layers of this cloud structure. It's not flat. We're trying to show here. We're trying to paint the fact that this is not a flat surface. It's got shape to it. It's got depth, even though it's in the sky, and it's just basically moisture collected in the sky as a cloud, but it has a shape to it. Okay. And let's see, I got this one down here. I'll put a little more color in this one. So I'm adding another small light layer on top of what I did before, and that gives me a little more structure. Wipe out the brush. I want to go back in. I want to blend that layer I just put in, just blend a little bit more. Okay. Okay, now what I'm going to do now, let's see, this one over here, I'm going to put a little more color on this one. A little more paint over here, and because it's a little bit darker, this one's a little bit darker. And I'm going to blend out that mark I just made. Make these irregular marks. This section here, this cloud section, is a little bit grayer than the main cloud section, so I'm putting a little more pigment on this section. And I can mark it up a little bit with the towel or with a tissue. Pick up a little paint on the palette, just going to be a little bit grayer over here, so I'm taking away a lot of the white areas. And I'm going to pick up a little bit more darker, just another little darker section. I'm going to go back in now and make this bottom of the cloud a little darker. This is the bottom of the cloud. It's much darker. Now I'm going to take the wet brush and feather it out, blend it out, and use that same brush and move some of that pigment up into the upper area. Give it a little more shape. A little more darker over here. This color's a little bit more grays in this cloud over here. Make it a little bit different. Okay, I'm going back to get a little darker mix. Pick up a little bit of that Payne's Gray. I'm going here, I'm going to make this a little bit darker down here. So I'm darkening up the shadow of the cloud. So this is the building process, and you can work on this for as long as you want until you're satisfied with it. But this will give you the idea of the techniques and the procedure of building a cloud structure. And just like everything else, this cloud over here is going to have a darker section. Even though it's a dark cloud, it's going to still have a darker bottom. It's in shadow of this other cloud. And blend out that top. I don't want any. The only hard edge I want is at the bottom. The rest of it's going to be soft. Keep going back and dipping in the blender brush here into the water and then hitting the sponge. Give this cloud a little more definition here by bringing up a little more pigment on this one. Get a little more definition. These faraway clouds down here, again, by adding a little definition to it, you can this tells you the pattern, or basically what's going on here. So now we got a sky full of clouds, okay, and that's kind of what I wanted. Now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take a larger brush, and this is a 3/4 inch, just 3/4 inch flat. And what I'm going to do is just take the lightest color I can do here, just a gray. This gray color out of the palette color with lots of water in it. Now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to cover this area because this is all gray cloud. There's sky blue you see, but this is all gray. It's not white. These are clouds way off in the distance. So we're basically I'm just covering the white paper. Okay. So that's that's a sky full of clouds. Now I'm going to just put a little simple landscape in here. I'm going to use a 3/4 inch brush to do that. What I'm going to do is just mix up a very simple background. A little bit of yellow ochre, and a little bit of Hooker's green. That's Hooker's green over here. Nice dark green. Mix it in with that yellow ochre. And right at the top here, I'm going to go ahead and put in a nice light green area. This is the horizon line. We'll put that in there. It's going to be a lighter green mix. So off in the distance we'll have a lighter green. Then as I come forward, I'm going to pick up a little more green, make it a little bit darker. A darker green as I come forward. A darker color, whatever color you're using. This is what you do. You start with a lighter mixture, a lighter color mixture, which was the yellow ochre, and then pick up a little more. I'm going to pick up at the bottom here now. I'm going to bring in ultramarine blue at the bottom here and give me a nice dark mix. Hooker's green and ultramarine blue at the bottom. And you need, for a painting like this, you need to have a large brush. You don't want to use a baby brush or a small brush. You want to use a large brush. 3/4 inch or an inch size brush should be perfect. So I'm cleaning up the top, bottom here. Now, as I move up to the as I move up top toward the horizon line, I'll pick up more of that green mixture I had with Hooker's green, a little bit of that. I don't want too much yellow in that. You take that back out. Okay. Hooker's green. As I come up a little bit higher, I'm kind of filling in the foreground here. This is dry paper. You have to really work a lot of paint in there to cover it up with that dry paper. And use a little bit of brush strokes here. It's just grass, weeds, and so forth in the foreground. So you can give it kind of like a textured look. You can move the brush around, do little cross strokes, up and down strokes. Give it kind of a textury look at the bottom. Okay, now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a little more of that yellow ochre, a little more yellow ochre. I'm going to go across the top. I want a nice yellow band up here at the top. I want it to be a little bit different. So we'll start with a nice yellow area. And as I come down, I'm going to pick up more of that green. Okay, so I've got a green, yellow horizon. I come down to a dark green bottom here. Okay, now I'm going to take this Hooker's green, add a little bit of ultramarine blue to it, and I'm going to build I'm going to do a simple tree line. So I'm just going to do vertical strokes here. And just rough the edge up a little bit. And this is a tree line. It's up here on the horizon. Make sure they're all different. To be some are taller, some are smaller, some are further apart. Just making a little variety up here at the top of the horizon. This is horizon line. This is all you see is a little tree line. So I use a vertical stroke here to get the paint on, and I use the corner of the brush to indicate a little texture of trees. Just a little touch of the corner to show some tree shapes. Just to make it a little more interesting here as a landscape. To show that we have, this is ground and we have sky. But today we were focusing on building clouds. But down here, just to finish off the painting, I'm going to add a little bit of landscape here. So keeping it simple, the main message today is clouds. And it just brings us back to earth here that we also got other elements in the painting. Okay. Now I'll use a nice brush stroke here, and I'm going to go across. This gives me a nice horizon line. As I come forward, I'm going to get darker and darker. So adding a lot more paint today than what I normally do. This is a watercolor painting, but I'm using a lot of darks. Lots of texture. And as far as composition goes, if you have something like a busy sky like this with texture in the sky, like these cumulus clouds, then you also want to have, as far as unity goes, you need texture in the rest of your painting. So that's why I'm spending a little more time down here in the foreground. I'm going to build a little more texture down here to complement the sky. So I'm putting some grass strokes down here at the bottom, tall grass strokes, and that'll give me that texture look, the rough look, like just it'll complement the rough edges of the clouds in the sky. Okay. All right. So let me dry this very quickly, then we'll put a mat around it and take a look at it. So that's my exercise. Now, this is not 100% complete today. This is just a demonstration on painting a cloud scene. I started out with an outline drawing, and then I put in the basic shapes of the clouds that I wanted. Then I added a little bit darker value of the cloud shadows to build up the structure. And I added additional layers to give a layering effect on the cloud, to give a little more depth. And then the foreground was just to add a little bit of interest and texture at the bottom, and also complement the sky. If you have a busy sky, you can have just a little bit of busy work in the rest of the painting to give it a unifying effect. Okay, I'm going to put a mat around that, and I'm going to bring it over to the close-up camera. We'll put a mat around. I think you can see it. I'm going to change it to the close-up camera today, so you can have a better way of looking at this. Practice this off a little bit more. So there's the painting with a mat board around it, Let's see, I'll bring this down a little bit more. There we go. Okay. All right. Okay, now I like that. That looks pretty good. You can see here the very dynamic structure of the sky with those large clouds, and then the billowing effect of the cumulus with the flat surface at the bottom, and then the rain clouds. The rain clouds is what they are. Okay. Now I did one earlier as a practice, and this is one here I tried here, and I didn't have problems with it, but I went back and made a lot of corrections because I wanted to get the shapes a little bit stronger, and I added some white paint in here to highlight some of the edges and so forth. So you can use white paint in a painting also to enhance the texture or enhance the contrast in the sky. But I like the way this one turned out. Nice soft clouds up there with a blue sky, and then a nice dark foreground. So I like the way that turned out. Okay, let's go back to my main camera. Okay, well, the focus today was clouds, and I think we accomplished that. I think the demonstration there showed you start out with it's a good reference, a good photo reference. You can do a plein air and go out and do one, but the clouds are moving out there, so you're better off taking a picture, which I've done. Take pictures or find pictures of clouds, and then pick a shape you like. Get a nice variety. Get some large clouds, but get some also smaller clouds that will indicate where the horizon is down way off in the background. And then practice the strokes, because it takes a little bit of practice, not just to get the shape, but then to get that three-dimensional look. You got to do some blending. So using a damp brush to blend the color. You don't want any hard edges inside the middle of the cloud. Or you can have a few of them, but you don't want to overdo that. And so I recommend you try doing some clouds. I really had a good time today. So you can post them on my Facebook page, Everett's Watercolors Art Group on Facebook. And you can post your picture there. I'd be glad to take a look at it. Thank you for watching today. I hope you enjoyed that. And I'll be back again next week on Thursday. Put out another painting. And I'll be on this evening a little bit later. I'll be doing Simply Drawing with Everett. I'm going to do some clouds here, but I'm going to use the pencils. Use pencils and some shading on the clouds. So I think you'll enjoy that. And over the weekend, I do Anyone Can Draw with One Line Only. You'll enjoy that also. Now, if you're subscribed to this channel, you'll be notified of all those videos on my YouTube and Facebook pages. So until then, you all stay safe and stay warm. It's still not spring yet, so it's still a little bit chilly out there. So you all take care. I'll see you next time. Bye.